Where shall I stand on this other side?
Ready, chap?
Lift off plus about 7 minutes now.
Roger.
Gerald Acton, this is your life.
I've been bloody set up here, good and proper.
Sit down, boy.
Oh, Christ.
That's the camera.
Oh, my God. I said, is Roger going to be here? Oh, yeah, come in.
Ladies and gentlemen, our story begins on the 12th of August 1939 when Gerald was born above East Hamlet Post Office. Hands up all of those of you who weren't born on that day. We'd like to give you value for money at Ludlow. You're getting This Is Your Life, a buffet and a history lesson all in one go. Gerald was obviously destined for fame at an early age, and one of his earliest exploits of note was when he contrived to fall out of his Aunt Rosie's bread van. He was carried around Ludlow on a stretcher by the local gang and was considered something of a hero. He attended East Hamlet Primary School, and the teachers, Miss Richards, Miss Holland and Miss Perry, were the first of countless future females who thought he was a lovely boy.
This is unbelievable.
Our first
My wife
guest,
said, I'm just going for a pee.
our first guest this evening was the one who made all this possible, all the way from Lower Broad Street, your father, Frank Acton.
Oh my God. I'll never.
Of course, during the war years, you were a little lad, and I was away fighting your battles, so that you could be here tonight. And I remember, I got a vivid memory of coming back from Burma with my bush hat and meeting this little lad who I didn't really, stranger to me, and Morris. And I remember distinctly getting hold of his hand, and Morris on his side, and I said to Morris, come on, Nipper. He looked up innocently at me and said, my name's not Nipper, my name's Morris. Of course, there was in those days, of course, rugby hadn't flown its wings. We were playing with a round ball. And I remember we used to live in New Road then, and we had an old chap called Diggory. We used to play in the street, of course. I played in the street, and the ball used to go over to keep all the balls. And I remember once this old Diggory, this old chap said to me, look, they're throwing stones in my window, there's something going on. You know, he's crazy hell about it. And after a bit of detective work, I found that his lordship was firing an air rifle from our window on his panes. I took the gun away and told him off, of course. Because I remember very well, I can't remember what he did, but I remember sending him upstairs, said, take your trousers off and smacking his behind at 14 years of age. And he didn't flinch. I thought it was a waste of time. And can you imagine a father smacking his boy these days? Hardly ever. Of course, we had a ritual in our family that every Sunday afternoon we went for a walk. And there would be Gerald and Morris and Bruce in the pram or Muriel. We used to all go for a walk on a Sunday afternoon. I suppose it was a non-conformist ritual or something like that. Anyway, I don't know what on earth we used to do, do you? We used to look for wildflowers. It wasn't years after I found they detested this, but I suppose there's something to be said for a family sort of community. Stedford, now, he used to always enter for the Methodist at Stedford. He always used to win the handwriting contest, which I suppose indicates something of his artistic flair. Now, he had always, quite young, I detected an urge to succeed with a certain amount of arrogance.
I don't think I'm going to ever forgive you.
We're not an emotional family or a sentimental family, but this is the first time in my life I believe I've ever said, I'm proud of you to be my son.
Good heavens.
You're a good citizen, and I thank you for the joy.
Not supposed to
Shut
be
up!
real, is it?
Shut up! And I'm thankful the joy he's given me by watching him playing rugby.
Well done.
Thank you, Frank Acton. You quickly established yourself as head of the New Street Gang, and under your direction, they enjoyed many varied adventures.
Hey, who's the surprise going to be, Rog?
Now we meet the scapegoat for most of your earlier escapades. Do you recognize his voice?
Billy Sam.
Oh, God. My older brother.
Rubbish!
One of Ludlow's best ever fullbacks, Brother Morris.
I've at last got the chance to get the record straight. I'm the youngest.
He looks older, though.
I've been asked to think of some life and death sort of adventures when we were kids. If we take you back, a lot of you may not remember Charles Atlas. They used to have an advertisement, and it had the 7 Stone Weakling and the Afterman. Well, I was a 7 Stone Weakling, and he was a little bit more the Afterman. Life and death stories. Well, I can tell of the time when I was about 6 years of age. Had a proud of a bike, and in the school playground of East Hamlet School, Gerald and his friend Jeff had my bike, of course, until the actual handlebars went loose. And it was then, our kid, can you take the bike up to Dad and get it put right? We'll time you, be as quick as you can. So, you know, it's get on the bike, and on the bike I got, and out round the corner I went, pulled the handlebars straight under a car. So that's the first one he got rid of me. In those days, we didn't have any sports centres, and as head of the New Street Gang with Bostock Lewis and Jeff Davis and Rufus Wright, we all used to play in the quarry or down on a thing called the Ludlow Pit, the rubbish pit. And at the back of it was a big sewerage, water-covered area. And being head of the gang, he made all the decisions. And being the 7 Stone Weakling, we made this raft out of old bits of wood and God knows what. And it was thrown on this water part, and decision time, who was going to try it out? You guessed it, Muggins. And like every good thing that we made, it sunk to the bottom, of which I then ended up with feet completely wet, crying my eyes out, saying, if it's a new pair of shoes, I'm going to get belted. Decision time again. We'll make a fire. Put your socks on the fire, and while they're drying, you can get back in and get the raft out. It's like an idiot I did. And while we were doing that, what happens on the fire? Socks completely bloody ruined, nothing left at all. So he says, put them on. So I put these socks on with no, absolutely burned through. And we're walking through, and on goes my foot on a piece of tin, cut all my feet. And I thought, well, if I don't get tetanus, something will happen here. So it was the second time. Anyway, I must admit, there was one time where he did save me. we used to go down, we had no swimming pools, we used to go down to Batty's Island, about 2 miles away from where we lived, and it was been raining for about 2 weeks, a typical summer. And then it came out a hell of a hot day, and we said, let's go swimming. So we walked and trudged all the way down to Batty's Island, and when we got down there, it was a torrent. It was brown, the water was going like hell. And I'd only just learned to swim. And where it used to go up to your ankles, it came up to there on me. I did about 3 strokes, and I was halfway down the river, and I was in trouble. Whoa. And they still owe me one, though.
Thank you, Maurice Acton.
You can't even see who the rotten swines are that are out there.
In 1950, you entered Ludlow Grammar School, and it was here you acquired the nickname that has remained with you till today, Pudding Acton. Apart from notable successes in the school's 5 championships, it was not until your later school days that you began to show promise as a rugby player. Some of your motivation undoubtedly came from the successes of your contemporaries. One of these was your cousin Clive Lewis, who was the outstanding player of the era. He won England caps at schoolboy level and went on to represent Shropshire and the North Midlands at senior level. He had some games for Saracens when he worked in London, but always said that he enjoyed his rugby best when he was in Ludlow. Clive now lives in Norfolk and was unable to be here this evening, but he sends us this message. Hello, Gerald. They tell me you have been playing senior rugby now for 25 years. Can this really be true? Well, of course it can. And I attribute this amazing durability to your uncanny sense of being able to ignore any risk or discomfort to your own personal well-being. By allowing the other chap to make the tackle or fall on the Your manners have always been impeccable. I apologise for not being there tonight, but I can't stand those filthy songs Peter Marple sings. Only because I can't remember the words. Perhaps I should have copied your technique and written them down on scrappy pieces of paper for future reference. Seriously, Gerald, I consider you to be an excellent example to the young players of the day by your own high personal standards of physical fitness and behaviour on and off the field. I would like to think that the attitude you hold toward the game was acquired under the guidance of a now lost mutual friend of many of us, A.J. David, and I'm sure he would agree with anyone who knows you as we do. You are a credit to the game and to your club. That was a message from Clive. 2 more of our guests remember your first games for Ludlow. Apparently you made your debut as a hooker, but obviously lacked the intelligence required for front row play. And in subsequent games reverted to your customary place in the back row. Here to recollect your eventual move to the 3 quarters, life member of Ludlow Rugby Club Robert Herm and former Ludlow captain Joe Meredith.
Oh, Joe. Wines. You won't believe this when I tell you.
I don't know what Joe is, but he's still in the bar. You can come and see.
Can you tell us, Rob, how Gerald first started playing in the 3 quarters?
Actually, Roy, you asked me.
Joe.
Oh, really? Actually, Roger, you asked me to come along this evening to say a few kind words about Gerald. I've had a long thought, and really, I can't think of anything, to be honest with you. No, Gerald was initially in the forwards, and he did a bit of hooking, and then they were stuck in the back row, and they put him there. And then one Saturday, in actual fact, it was an injury to myself, they brought Gerald out, and he told him he was going to play in the 3 quarters. And his reaction to that was, there's no way I'm playing there.
Took the pig, didn't they?
He wasn't going to turn up the next day. But the idea was, of course, he wouldn't have seen the ball, whereas in the forwards he was chasing everywhere and everything. He came out of the 3 quarters, he got the ball, and we never saw it after. I'd have been joking, had a few words to that.
I think
Yes. It is.
Can you add anything, Joe?
Well, I congratulate Gerald on such a marvellous career from a sensitive young artist of 16, 25 years of rugby.
Joe, I thought you might have helped me when I rang you up earlier in the week to say, could you remember any of those blokes I used to play with? And Joe said, oh, don't you remember you played hooker? And I thought, well, I might just mention to one or two people tonight that I started the club playing hooker. And it gets announced by Roger. It's going to be a big secret that I've kept. All right, Joe.
Thank you. We always let you down.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You quickly established a reputation as an outside half, and you frequently made the headlines in the Ludlow Advertiser. Acton in kicking form. Star player was Gerald Acton. Acton shines. Acton scores 15 points, were just some of the headings in Ludlow match reports. In 1960 you played for Shropshire with clubmates Tony Hearn and Peter Hood. And here now is your club and county colleague Peter Hood.
Hi, Peter.
Well, I don't know. I can congratulate you on where you got yourself in rugby, but it wasn't all due to you, and there's a bit of dedication with the Ludlow Rugby Club. The speed that the way you play rugby was, I think, in the days of the ball, when we used to go upstairs for the shower. There were 3 showers.
He's not Peter Marples, isn't he?
And there was only one that worked, which was through one small hole. And Gerald used to be out of the car, up the stairs, undressed, and the water only lasted for about 5 minutes hot. The rest of you had to have it cold. He was under the shower, showering away. But if you wanted hot water, all you had to do was open the door and shout, "Watch out! Chopper Marples is about!" And all you would see was some fairy liquid bubbles just floating down, but Gerald was nowhere to be seen. I never did know where he went.
Thank you.
Anyway, congratulations. Well done, Gerald.
Thank you, Peter.
Very good.
You still continued to attract headline comment in the Advertiser, though occasionally...
You wait till your year, next year, McCarville.
Though occasionally things did go wrong. In April 1960, the paper reported thus: Ludlow exerted tremendous pressure and did everything but score, but were eventually awarded a penalty right in front of the posts. Somehow fly half G. Acton managed to slice his kick wide. Then Acton ripped through the defence with a beautiful jinking run, only to drop the ball as he just... Club captain at this time was hooker Peter Marples, who, according to another report in the same month, achieved something never yet emulated by subsequent Ludlow hookers. He ran 50 yards in the final of the Worcester and Hereford Sevens to score the winning try. Travelling from Northamptonshire to be with us tonight, Peter Marples.
Well, what you can say after what's been said. My first memories of Gerald is when I came out of the Navy. Gerald had just started playing, just left school and started playing. And he was full, I think he was expecting to have to go for national service himself at the time. And he was full of questions about life in the forces. So I told him. And ever after that, for some reason or other, every time I went to sit on a seat at the back of the bus, Gerald would come and sit beside me. I got worried about this for a time. And this is where the stories emulate from. But we had some good times in those days. It's nice to see you. Congratulations,
Thanks for
Gerald.
coming, Peter.
Thank you, Peter
Incredible
Marples.
to see you.
The following following season saw a continuation of your success, and despite injury, your play went from strength to strength. In the spring of 1961, you attracted the attentions of the North Midlands selectors. You joined Moseley for the following 1962-63 season, and after 2 games for the seconds, you made your first team debut against Llanelli at Stradey Park. You were to become a regular member of Moseley First 15 until 1970, and during this time you made 19 appearances for the North Midlands. You were part of one of the strongest club three-quarter lines of the time, which included John Finlan and Colin McFadden. There used to be a call sign for you at Moseley when it was your ball. Can you recognise this voice?
Come on, Nosey.
No?
A bit more.
You want you to say it again?
Go on then, you dull bugger.
Peter McGowan. Ron Morris. And Martin Hale.
The biggest setup of all time, isn't it? Look at this.
Who's going to do the trial?
Well, I've known Gerald for a very long time, actual fact. I've played with him since I was about 17. No, not played with him actually, but played against him for a long, long time.
And played with him.
Yeah. Gerald was always known as a smooth character on the bus. He was always early on the first on the bus to get home to his wife. He was always known for that.
I got that bit.
And it was actually a very, very fine player. I leave Ron to carry on and tell you how fine a player he was.
You be careful, Ron, isn't it?
Yeah, well, there's not a lot I can add, really.
Well, I would like to say about Gerald, actually, he...
Hey, for those that didn't know that I passed the ball, he once scored 48 tries in a season.
Lucky though, lucky.
Thank you, Gerald. Yeah. One thing I would like to say about Gerald, how underrated he was. He really made the Moseley three-quarter line click, and I think really that he should have got more honours.
I'd like to explain what this nosy was all about. This was a scheme that was dug up by our captain, who decided that Gerald was such a strong runner that he was quite capable of breaking a tackle, and the actual ploy was for Gerald to get the ball fed from our take on the scrum, and then the ball would go as far as Gerald in the centre, and it would be called nosy, and he'd run till the breakdown of play. And the forwards, the idea was that the forwards would know that the breakdown of play would be in front of them, and therefore they were running forward. That's the idea, and it did come off. Yeah. And the nose, of course.
Right, thank you. Peter McGowan, Ron Morris, and Martin Hale. Someone else from Moseley wishes to take part but cannot be here tonight. Live by satellite from Walsall, England international John Webster.
Well, sir, this is a very hard-wearing quality jersey. As worn by one or two of the local clubs around the area. And hello, Hackers. You've worn one of these in your time, haven't you? Well, it's nice to see you again. Whether you'll still be wearing this in another 25 years' time, I really don't know. Some people would say you would be. But I know from the time that you have worn it at Ludlow, you've worn it with pride, and a lot of people have been happy to play with you. Certainly in my time at Moseley, we had some good fun together, and it's good to have kept in touch with you, playing squash from time to time. If you remember rightly, I think I taught you how to play squash. And about 6 months later, you were teaching me how to play squash. Anyway, Jerry, it's good to see you, and have a good night.
At the end of your first-class career, you returned to play for your first club, Ludlow. You chose to play at full-back, making a big impact as an attacking full-back, a role that was in vogue at the time. Some of the players from your pre-Moseley days were still playing on your return. I can't remember the cue for that.
So in Acton the ball, he'll never pass it back.
That's true.
Say it again, please.
He'll never pass it back.
Come
I
on,
was one
Acton.
of the four that went to San Sebastian.
Oh.
one man.
Come in, Tony.
Are you well?
Oh dear, oh dear, I don't know.
Very bright.
Shell shocked. Shell
What can you remember, Tony, about when Gerald came back to play for London?
Well, I don't really remember anything. I know one thing. He came back with his fancy flips and double drips, and but he was still a chap who could make an opening or create something from nothing in a very short space of time. And I think when I played with Gerald before he left, he was always a chap who was prepared to go for the line. And I think, you know, Gerald, I enjoyed playing with you because I knew that if we could set something up, that you would score something. And I think that above all else, in playing with Gerald, the real fun was that you knew that if he was on form, that we were going to win.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Tony.
Although firmly committed to playing for Ludlow and having resumed playing for Shropshire, you were still not forgotten in first-class circles. When Moseley were hit by an injury crisis, you were called up to help out and played 2 further first-team games. This was something of an accolade, although the Birmingham Post considered that with the recall of Gerald Acton, Moseley have now reached the bottom of their apparently bottomless I well remember you describing those 2 games when the wing playing outside you was what you called the fastest thing you had ever seen on 2 legs. He was, of course, former England Rugby Union star, now Rugby League star, now perhaps better known for his appearances on Superstars, Keith Fielding. Unfortunately,
I know who you're going to bring on.
shut up. Unfortunately, Keith could not be with us tonight, but we do have an interview with the man who played outside you the week after. Live by satellite from Craven Arms Fish and Chip Shop proprietor, Jeremy Freeman.
It's his 50th birthday, is it? Hello, Gerald. I'd just like to take this opportunity of thanking you because you kept me waiting so long for a pass on the wing. I managed to set up my own business. And congratulations on 25 years in rugby.
Someone else connected with sport wishes to say something over the satellite.
Gerald Acton? Yes, of course, I remember him. He used to play rugby for Ludlow. Congratulations on a successful 25 years in the forefront of rugby union. Have a good evening. Goodbye.
Your return to Ludlow heralded a much greater sophistication in the club's three-quarter play. We saw regular introductions of complicated scissors movements, whose only common factor was that you always ended up with the ball. Sometimes you ended up with more than you bargained for, and as the club newsletter reported at the time, on one occasion you had to enter hospital to have centre Jim Hearn removed from your back passage. Jim Hearn also remembers another occasion when things went wrong.
Hello, Gerald.
do you remember playing a game in Erdington in Birmingham? The first time I think Ludlow played in the North Midlands Cup, and we didn't know the rules, and it was about 5 minutes to go, and we were drawing 12 apiece, and then we decided to do a scissors in the centre, and so when I took the ball off you, I crashed straight into you. When the opposite man hit you, I went down on the ground, the ball went on the floor, they hacked up field, I broke my nose, they scored, we lost the game. Thanks to you, that's the only thing I broke on the rugby field. Anyway, Gerald, you're a grand chap, you set a fine example to the club in your determination in the game, and I wish you all the best for this evening.
Your success on the rugby field was paralleled by your success in your career. On leaving school, you served a 5-year apprenticeship as a commercial artist before steadily climbing the promotional ladder to become a sales director, until by the time you returned to live in Ludlow, you were on the board of the rapidly expanding Studio Press. You always had the smartest car in the club. A new car every year, and inevitably the first one with electric windows. This was to cause you some embarrassment on the occasion of our first Easter tour to the Isle of Wight. 4 of us were travelling in your new Stag and were well behind schedule if we were to catch the last ferry. The rest of the party had an hour's start on us and we had to catch them up. You drove at reckless speed all the way and were absolutely incensed when an old lady stepped out on a zebra crossing, causing you to leave quite a lot of rubber on the road. You then proceeded to harangue her with some of the foulest language it was ever my privilege to hear. Unfortunately, this was just the opportunity that Colin Goff was waiting for to play with the switches for the electric windows. And so what you thought was only reaching the occupants of the car echoed around the high street of a quiet country town. Your personal fitness has always been a byword in the club, and so it was of no particular surprise to Gags Griffiths when he was driving out to pick up Caroline one evening to see you jogging home towards Ludlow after a game. He would probably have picked you up had he known that you had been kidnapped by Aston Old Edwardians and made to run back to Ludlow from the Clee Hill. Two of your outstanding memories of your captaincy at Ludlow must surely be of the time you told the cucumber joke at the annual dinner. You primed me to give the answer and Johnny Mark fell for it as sweet as a nut. The other concerns the 7-a-side competition at Shrewsbury Flower Show, which we won. There followed a very memorable after-hours drinking session in a pub at Church Stretton. Your wife Anne was in hospital, having just presented you with your son Jeremy, and so you spent the rest of the night on your knees in your parents' toilet. Despite your past achievements, your greatest successes were still to come when you began to play for Ludlow Fourths. And quite recently you received the team's coveted Golden Boot Award. Your continual ability to score points means that the newspaper headlines of the late 50s are now beginning to be repeated. Before we introduce our last guests, I would like to thank the following people who have made this evening possible. All our guests who have come here, some of them quite a long way, and taken the trouble to come here to meet Gerald tonight. Graham Lloyd and Dave Hicks for showing the video recordings and for recording this evening's proceedings. Jim Peters, who was in charge of Gerald Acton. Colin Goff, who was in charge of the box office. Bob Meggitt, the casting director and sound engineer. And the overall direction by Laurie Wallace. I would hasten to add that this was a 4th-team production. We have not mentioned your athletic achievements because although you were a member of Birchfield Harriers, most of your modest success was around the church fetes of South Shropshire, winning the prize money away from the locals. I will not mention this further, as I do not wish to jeopardize your amateur status at this stage. Your most important track achievement was the meeting of your wife Anne, who joins us now with the young man in whom is vested the next 25 years of Acton rugby with Ludlow, your son Jeremy, your mother Doris, and your daughter Jane. And finally, to mark your 25 years of rugby, and as a token of the very high regard which all of us here have for you, may I present you later on with a video recording of tonight's proceedings, which I hope you will cherish as a worthy reminder of your achievements. Gerald Acton, good rugby player and good friend, this is your life.
I really can't say anything after that. You know, you're supposed to be very full, and I can't see who's out there anyway. I honestly thought I was coming here for a quiet social, and it's just, I was nonplussed when I got awarded with the golden boot and the super stud at the 4th team dinner. But I'm totally thrown now, and I really would just like to thank you very much indeed. Thanks.
Gerald Acton. Who's Gerald Acton? Yes, of course, I remember him. He used to play rugby for Ludlow. Best wishes, Gerald, and congratulations on a successful 25 years in the forefront of rugby union. Have a good evening. Goodbye.
What, and just sort of talk about the shirt and then sort of come in and then look at you then?
Yeah.
Right.
No, look at Laurie.
Look at Laurie.
You can sort of look at it as surprised as it starts filming. Look up in surprise, rather. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah. Then when you come to Hello Gerald, look at the camera.
Or Hello Ackers or something like that.
That's right, yeah. Advertise the shirt to him.
Also, this is a very hard-wearing quality jersey, as worn by one or two of the local clubs around the area. And hello, Ackers. You've probably worn one of these in your time, haven't you? Well, it's nice to see you again. Whether you'll still be wearing this in another 25 years' time, I really don't know. Some people would say you would be. But I know from the time that you have worn it at Ludlow, you've worn it with pride, and a lot of people have been happy to play with you. Certainly in my time at Moseley, we had some good fun together, and it's good to have kept in touch with you, playing squash from time to time. If you remember rightly, I think I taught you how to play squash, and about 6 months later you were teaching me how to play squash. Anyway, Jerry, it's good to see you, and have a good night.
Okay.
It's his 50th birthday, is it? Hello, Gerald. I'd just like to take this opportunity of thanking you because you kept me waiting so long for a pass on the wing that I managed to set up my own business. Seriously, have a good night and congratulations on 25 years in rugby.
Hello, Gerald. Do you remember playing a game in Erdington in Birmingham? The first time I think Ludlow played in the North Midlands Cup. And we didn't know the rules, and it was about 5 minutes to go. We were drawing 12 apiece, and then we decided to do a scissors in the centre. And so when I took the ball off you, I crashed straight into you. When the opposite man hit you, I went down on the ground, the ball went on the floor, they hacked up field, I broke my nose, they scored, we lost the game. Thanks to you, that's the only thing I've broken on a rugby field. Anyway, Gerald, you're a grand chap. You set a fine example to the club in your determination in the game, and I wish you all the best for this evening.